Hey, it's Friday night. You got nothing else better to do than to watch my top 10 comic books of the week. Hey comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0, and fans, you're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready to bring you my top 10 comic books of the week, and this is for the week of 2/6/19. That's right, fans. Now, this top 10 list is based off of my top 10 most anticipated comics of the week that airs every Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So before we get started, guys, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Alright, so without further ado, let's get started with this countdown. Before we get into the top 10, though, we go with our worst pick of the week. And my worst pick of the week, unfortunately, once again, was Green Lantern issue 4. I'm just not a fan, guys. I don't know if I'm going to have to smoke a joint to actually understand what goes on in this series and the artistic things that go on in this book. But it's just something I'm just not digging. Now, I respect Grant Morrison as a writer, but I think I'm really starting to figure out what I don't like about this version of Green Lantern. We have all these different species, all these different aliens, and all these different star systems and things like that, and I just find it like, I feel like I have to know all these things, and it just goes over my head, and I feel like I don't understand half the time what Grant Morrison is trying to explain with all these different types of things. You know, there's all these characters and things like that, and there's the Sun Eaters in this issue and whatnot, and we find out that, you know, Jordan is posing as a person playing, you know, telling this story. I don't, it's just not my cup of tea. And at this point, even though artistically the book is gorgeous to look at, and the characters are beautiful and very creative, you know, like in that aspect, it's just not my style. You know, I don't think I will be reading it going forward. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's always one of those things where I'm on the fence about. It's just not my cup of tea, man, you know? Not my style. So unfortunately, that's why it's my worst pick. And it's sad because I want to like this book a lot. Green Lantern is my favorite DC superhero. Hal Jordan and Kyle Rayner and things like that. And I think what we need is, I think we need a DC book, Green Lantern book that has to do with the Green Lantern Corps. And we haven't seen that in a while now, and I want that to return. So yeah, Green Lantern, unfortunately, guys, the worst pick of the week. Alright, so with that being said, though, let's move on to my surprise pick of the week. And it actually wasn't on my top 10 most anticipated for the first time in a long time. But this was actually Batman issue 64. And this book is not written by Tom King. This one is written by Williamson. I'm trying to remember if it's Joshua Williamson. And the art is done by Gillian March. And the artwork in this book, guys, is absolutely outstanding. If you guys saw my comic book haul video, I did show this opening page in here with Wonder Woman and the Justice League. And so this also felt like not just a Flash and a Batman book, because these two series are going to be crossing over, but this felt like a Justice League book, and this felt like a good Justice League book. You know, I'm not currently reading Justice League, but I haven't heard too many positive things about it. But again, the artwork is absolutely gorgeous in this book. I love seeing all the action scenes. And we get to see our Justice League do battle against the Amazon virus in the beginning of this book. They're dealing with the situations of what's happening with the Sanctuary over in Heroes in Crisis. And then there's this issue that happens when it comes to the Flash Museum. There's some kind of entity or something that lands and destroys the whole area, and all people are in danger. And Batman and Flash try to pick up the pieces and clean things up, and Batman wants to work with Flash in order to solve this case. And Flash is on to Batman and realizes, hey, listen, things are not right here. Stop holding back information from me. And we find out that in this issue, for the first time in a long time, we're seeing the return of not only Gotham, but the return of Gotham Girl. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And she wants to stop at nothing at resurrecting her brother. And that's how kind of like the issue ended. And I was like, holy shit, I did not expect to actually see that. You know, I thought that was totally insane there. So yeah, I was like, wow. I mean, really happy I decided to pick up this crossover. Can't wait to see what happens in the Flash issue. All right. So now that we got our worst and our surprise pick, what was my number 10? Well, unfortunately, number 10, I didn't get a chance to read. It was actually my number 7 most anticipated comic, and this was X-23 issue 9. By default, this is going to fall in the number 10 slot because for some reason my comic book store did not have X-23 in stock, so I missed out on reading it. I didn't get a chance to, so there you have it. There's your number 10. Kind of a hole in the countdown this week, guys. So let's move on then to number 9, okay? And number 9 this week, it goes to the Uncanny X-Men issue 11. This is this big supersized issue that they charged its readers $7.99 for, okay? On my most anticipated, this was number 6. But as I got reading this issue, it was like a chore to read it. It was so long and it was so drawn out. And even though it was enjoyable at times and it was good to see Scott Summers in action again, trying to figure out what he needs to do to get his X-Men back and trying to, you know, just get things back to normal, it was just a long, drawn-out story. He wound up going on air. He winds up trying to get any X-Men or any mutant to get on his side to help gain the mutants back together again. And he winds up coming across the Reavers and a bunch of other groups and things like that. And it was just okay. It was okay for me. Again, it was a very long and drawn out book. We get to see some cool 2-page spreads of Cyclops teaming up with Wolverine because that's who meets him at the very end, doing battle against all these other types of, you know, again, groups and characters. And it was interesting, you know. And then you get all these other backup stories like where Wolverine was, where Blindfold actually was, and how they all met up. And the artwork wasn't nearly as solid going forward. Did this book really need to be as long as it was? No. I think at the end of the day, this could have been a book where it was just that one story, be done. It didn't need to be 3 separate stories. It didn't need to be $7.99. It didn't need all that excess like girth, you know, to it. So again, it was a tough read. It does have me interested to see how Scott is going to try to get his X-Men back, how he's going to get together this team or whatever the case may be. So we'll see what happens with it. Alright, so moving on now to my number 8. And my number 8 this week goes to Harley Quinn issue 58. This fell on my most anticipated as number 8, so it fell right where it needed to be. This was like one of those, this is a story arc that's going on. I think that's going to be 5 parts, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, this was part 2 of a story arc, so I was kind of into it. And Harley Quinn is trying to, I guess, trying to prove herself that she's turned over this new leaf. And she teams up with Batman to try to convince Batman there was this crime that she didn't commit. Okay? The artwork was pretty nice. There were some good comical moments in here. But there was nothing in this book that made me go, oh man, I want to see who framed Harley Quinn. I want to see what happened. Batman was extraordinarily angry in this issue, you know, trying to find out this case. And there was a couple times where they revisited the same dialogue. That's it, Harley, you're going to jail. You're a murderer, you're a killer. And he says it like a couple of times, the same exact line. It's like they felt like they ran out of dialogue to say in this issue. But at the end of the day, there was a couple good moments where Harley actually saves a mom and her son. I thought that was really a good moment, and it kind of proves to Batman that she is trying to change. And the person that wound up setting her up at the end was Lord Deathman, and he is infatuated with Harley. He'll do whatever it takes to spend time with her or to be with her or whatever the case may be. And, you know, it's kind of a comical moment where Harley kind of tries to kill him, but he always comes back to life anyway. So it was okay. It was just there. Will I read the continuing story arc of this series? No. I just thought it was cool that Harley Quinn and Batman were teaming up together, and I wanted to see what that mission was and how their, you know, interactions with each other were. So it was okay for what it was, but I'm not picking up Harley Quinn going forward. Alright, so moving on to my number 7 book of the week, and that goes to Old Man Quill issue 1. Old Man Quill was number 4 on my most anticipated this week, and I thought this was cool, and I think this is going to get better as time goes along. We have Old Man Quill, who goes into, he's the leader of Spartax. He goes into this war. He's headstrong. He wants to take the war early. Okay, and then what happens in this issue is we wind up seeing that the Queen here kind of thought ahead and winds up getting all his troops, all the people, and they wind up getting to destroy the Queen, and they wind up doing like this secret attack on his planet. They wind up destroying his planet. And so what happens is Peter winds up, you know, obviously self-loathing and depressed, and he's drinking, and he's, you know, he's all, you know, out of it. And the next thing you see is the Guardians of the Galaxy come to his aid, and they say, come on, you gotta go on this mission. There's something wrong, you know, and they wind up going on a mission together, and that's what happens. And so they wind up going into Sword Space Station, and they meet up with this brood, and they do this battle against this brood, and there's a reason why the space station was taken over, and it was because they feel that something happened to the Avengers, something happened to, you know, X-Men and things like that, and then the Earth is a bunch of wastelands, and that's how they wind up on Earth, the Earth wasteland. So they find out that Doctor Doom is taking over the world. So it was, again, it was a book that was kind of there. It was a setup issue. It was okay. It wasn't the best read. I liked it. It's just, again, more setup than anything. I think part of the issue is I wanted to see Quill older. And the way the artwork was in this book, it didn't seem like anyone was really older. It just seemed like Quill had blonde hair, and it was longer, and it seemed like Gamora had short hair. And the only person that looked old was Rocket Raccoon. He had a you know, a cane, and he complained about his aching back. But I think that's what I lacked of. It just didn't seem like anybody was any older, and it was just like, okay, there's planets taken over, and now we're back on the wastelands. I think the next issue will really start to tell the story here of what they have to do on Earth. All right, so moving forward, we go on to my number 6 book of the week, and this goes to Marvelous X-Men. This is issue 1. And this was actually on my number 10 most anticipated because I did not like the Alpha issue, and I just didn't like the world that they were in. I didn't like the artwork that was presented to itself. But now the story seems to, you know, present itself to the reader a little bit here, and we get to see that, of course, the X-Men, they live in this utopia, and you know, everything seems hunky-dory. And next thing you wind up finding out that there's this forest fire. So you get to see them go on this pleasant type of mission, okay? And you get to see them do this battle and whatnot. But we see that things are not quite right with certain X-Men. And it starts off with Laura. Laura is the one that has this vision of Gabby, of her sister. And she feels this pain. And in this world, you're not supposed to feel pain. You're not supposed to feel love, not real emotion and whatnot. And people are conceived through like this bubble place, through like this nursery, this hatchery, or whatever it is that they call it. And we were finding out that things are not quite what they seem, and the X-Men seem like they're going to be finding out that this world is a world that Nate created. So I found that quite interesting, and we get to see Laura went to actually go attack Nate at one point, and because he was trying to give her the information about Gabby and how how she should feel and things like that. So it was cool. It was all right. It wasn't great, but it was better than the first issue, and now it kind of has me hooked where, okay, I'm going to keep reading this. All right? So far at this point, though, when it comes to the comic books in the top 10, I wasn't really super excited about anything when I got done reading it. The only one so far was my surprise pick, and that was the Batman issue. So do things turn around going into the top 5? So here's my number 5. My number 5 is Young Justice issue 2. I thought this book was cool. Again, we don't see Teen Lantern in this book, but we do get to see a little bit of what's going on with Wonder Girl. They did say that secrets revealed in the next issue at the end of issue 1 with Wonder Girl, and you get that. You get to meet her grandfather and things like that. The one thing I do like about this book is I do love the artwork. Once again, the artwork is stellar in this book. I love the facial expressions when it comes to Jenny Hex and some of the other characters in here. Wonder Girl looks very nice in here too. Yeah, just again, it's a beautiful looking book, and unfortunately this book is going to go through an art change, and it's going to be the Runaways actually artist on here. So, but overall, again, it looked really nice. But in this book, we get to see, again, stuff of what's going on with Wonder Girl. We wind up finding out that obviously her grandfather is Zeus. We see that in there, and she has this higher calling that she's given this amulet, and when she's ready, her lasso, her wristbands, or her, I don't know what the heck you call them, her gauntlets, and her pendant and everything are supposed to work together as one, and she's supposed to be this protector of this realm and stuff like that, and she just shoves it in her grandfather's face. She's like, I want nothing to do with that. She's like, when I'm ready to be a higher power, she's like, I'm going to do that. So I thought that was a cool character moment in this book and whatnot. And then you wind up seeing all our heroes meeting together in this Amethyst Gem World or whatever it is, and then they come across the enemy called Lord Opal of Gem World, and then that's how that issue ended too. So it was good. I mean, I think for this issue it was middle ground for me. I like the character moments. For some reason, why are we keeping Teen Lantern as such a mystery? But when she's here on this cover, like, why are we keeping her such a mystery in the actual book? Why won't we see her, you know? So I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. So I'm not crazy about the enemy. I'm not crazy about the Amethyst thing. But it's good. It's good. All right. So moving on now to number 4, and number 4 this week goes to The Walking Dead issue 188. This was number 5 on my most anticipated list. The Walking Dead still continues to have this story dealing with the Commonwealth. We get to see what's her name, Mercer is his name. He wants to take over this Commonwealth, and well, what happens is one of the men in charge, Lance, he overhears that whole conversation, and then he winds up getting thrown in jail. Okay, and we get to see Princess here, who actually left the Commonwealth because she doesn't want to deal with any conflict. She feels like she's better on herself. Well, what happens is she comes across Maggie's troops that are going to the Commonwealth to see if Rick is okay and whatnot, and there's this big herd of zombies, and we get to see a huge battle between the characters and the zombies themselves. And we get to see that Princess and the other people, they establish good relationships, like with Jesus and everybody else. So they divert that herd. And we see that Rick and Michonne in this issue, they're finding out that there's going to be this possible civil war that happens in the Commonwealth because you know, the leader of the guards wind up getting thrown in jail, and people don't agree with what's going on. And so there's a lot of things happening in The Walking Dead. And the biggest thing is at the end, we wind up getting to see this herd of zombies that Jesus and Princess diverted away from them actually go towards Eugene and his little girlfriend, and looks like they're going to attack them there. So, again, The Walking Dead was a solid issue, but it wasn't the greatest issue I've ever read. Again, there's just little progression that happens in this storyline, and I want them to go further with this Commonwealth thing. Like, what's going to happen in this Commonwealth? Are you going to take it over? Are you not going to take it over, Rick Grimes? Or is there going to be a war? Like, what's going to be what's happening? And what are you going to do that's different that we haven't seen before? And so that's why The Walking Dead is kind of middle ground for me right now, because it's just nothing different. All right, so let's move on to the top 3. All right, so number 3 goes to the Immortal Hulk issue 13. This was number 3 on my most anticipated, so this wound up working out pretty good. We finally get the conclusion to the Hell storyline. So Hulk now is out of Hell. And so basically what happens is you see Puck and what's his name? And Absorbing Man talking with each other on, you know, on what the gamma bomb is and how it created this hell and how Banner fell into it. And we see like all these different mutated versions of like Rick Jones in this book. And it was just the battle against, you know, Hulk and his father and what his father is. And it was just weird. It's just a weird, creepy, crazy book. And so what happens is, by the time we get to the end of this, Absorbing Man releases all the gamma radiation and gives it back to Hulk. And Hulk is the Hulk once again, and he overcomes Hell. And he has a talk with himself about, you know, how he's, you know, managed to suppress Banner for all this time, and he gives himself up to Banner, and Banner is Banner once again. And we wind up seeing that everyone winds up back in the desert like nothing ever happened, and we get something that's very emotional at the end of this book, and we find out that there's a phone call at midnight, and Bruce Banner is making a phone call to Betty. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, that is crazy. And he's not Hulk, he's Bruce Banner in the phone booth making this phone call, and it just looks like he has been through the ringer. And I'm very curious to see how Betty is actually going to be thrusted into this series. I love to see if she makes more of an impact in this series, and very curious now where the series goes from this story arc, because this is way out there. So I'm interested to see the developments of the Immortal Hulk going forward. Definitely way out there, definitely different, but I'm very intrigued going forward. All right, so moving on to my number 2 pick of the week. And my number 2, this was another big surprise for me. This goes to Female Furies issue 1. This was number 9 on my most anticipated, and this almost got number 1 pick, but this was really good. And this book is sending a message out there for females, I guess, okay? And you may not be into all that stuff. You may not be like, well, why do we need, you know, women's equality in comic books? Why do we need to display that? But I thought it was well done. I liked it. I liked seeing the women of Apocalypse not treated fairly, and them trying to get equal rights on Apocalypse. I thought that was kind of neat, and it stays true to what's going on in today's world. Women trying to fight for equal rights, and they are equal these days. And I thought it was really cool, and I thought the artwork was awesome too, because it kind of reminded me of old school style artwork in this book. And we get to see the overthrow of Granny Goodness overthrow the or kill Apocalypse's mother in this issue, and we get to see how she got her rise to power and kind of be the side of Apocalypse. And we get to see, though, how she was never treated fairly. You know, if she wanted to be by Apocalypse's side, you know, she had to give herself to him. Okay, and then finally, when she got some power, she was in charge of this of the nursery of raising these female Furies, and her goal was to rise these warriors up into the point of where they can fight alongside of the men of Apocalypse. And so they do this tryout every year to see if they're actually ready, and we get to see this actually happen, and we get to see the women not treated fairly. They actually make a mockery of them, and they put them through stupid cooking competitions and gown competitions and bathing suit competitions, like they're in the Miss America pageant, and they laugh at them and make jokes at them. And it was just like, and we get to see that Granny is just pissed off, and she's like, we will become equal. We will become equal. And so we wind up getting to see a training session here that has, I'm trying to remember the actual part. Arel is her name. You know, we get to see a special training issue, oh my God, I can't talk. Training situation that happens between this Fury and this trainer, and he basically sexually abuses her in the issue, okay? And she is only doing this because she is told to, okay? And we wind up seeing her and Big Bertha go on this special mission, and we wind up seeing that things go wrong, and they wind up killing a bastard of Steppenwolf, and they wind up burying him in an asteroid, and they have to keep this whole situation secret. I thought this was a cool issue. I thought, again, it just provokes, you know, what's going on when it comes to the women in this world, and they're not treated fairly, and I just like that message. I think it was a cool comic book, and it's very interesting now to see what they're going to deal with this death, and if Steppenwolf is going to find out, and if they do become equal in Apocalypse. So I like that message there. I thought this was a great book, and it really surprised me. I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was. So really good stuff. And I think this is a 4-part series. Alright, so what was my #1 pick of the week? Well, that goes to Champions issue 2. This was a great book, because in this issue, we wind up getting the revelation of what happened when the Champions jumped out of their, you know, spaceship that Sam Alexander flies, and the creature that they were supposed to destroy. We wind up seeing that moment in time of what actually happens. And it was very much horrific, okay? So we get to see the Champions do battle against this creature, and they thought it was going to be a easy win, an easy victory for them. And we wind up finding out that it was anything but that. They were supposed to set up this containment unit, Brawn was. It completely failed. It was too late. There was this massive explosion in Dubai. It winds up destroying Viv and Ms. Marvel. They wind up dying. It was very dark scene that you actually see. It was very sad, very emotional on the part of Miles Morales, and then the next thing you wind up seeing who makes his appearance is Mephisto, and he winds up saying, you know what, I'll let you go back in time and fix this moment. He's like, no strings attached. And Braun's like, don't do it, you know, you're making a deal with the devil. And Miles Morales was like, no strings attached. He's like, just do it, because he couldn't deal with the emotional impact of the loss of dead bodies and everything else around him. So he brings him back to the moment in time right before the event happens, and we wind up getting to see that they wind up saving the actual day. They contain the monster, and everything is hunky-dory. And I thought that was really cool. But at the very end, at the last panel, we see, since there was life that was saved, there was also life that was lost. And we don't quite know who that life lost was. All you see is a wrist and some armbands or bracelets, and I couldn't make out who that person was. And I'm very curious to see now what's going to be the ramifications of this deal that Miles made with Mephisto and bringing his friends back to life. This was a great book. a great 1-2 issue. You know, the first issue, you're like, whoa, what happened in this moment? And in this issue, you wind up seeing everything that actually happened. And it was dark, it was gloomy, and it's just like, things are not going to be as great and as happy as, of course, Kamala Khan actually thinks, because Miles and Brawn have that secret with each other, man. Great stuff, wonderful read. I'm very intrigued to see what happens going forward. So guys, there you have it. There are my top 10 of the week. Sorry I couldn't talk too well. I guess I must be tired, or I read too many comic books, or maybe I'm just hungry, or maybe I just got a lot going on this week. So guys, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that notification button so you don't miss a single video from me. And until that next comic book review, guys, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.